Our teachers are going through a lot right now with the adjustment to virtual learning. Actually, Vigo County, they're about to go fully back to in-person starting Monday, which is a good thing. And earlier, I want to say it was earlier this year, maybe late last year, thousands of teachers turned out for the Red for Ed Day in Indianapolis. And I believe it came out earlier this week that you would be releasing some recommendations or something like that related to teacher salary after the election. But what is your stance on that right now?
Sure. Well, we've come a long way on this front as well. Since I assumed this office, we've increased education funding $1.6 billion. It's a historic record increase in education funding. Not only that $1.6 billion addition, but we also look for other creative ways to steer more dollars into teacher paychecks specifically. We have to work, obviously the contracts are locally bargained, but I went to superintendents, et cetera, and said, look, if we paid off a local liability, would you be able to find a way to get that to teacher paychecks? And to their credit, to their word, they did, and they did. And so we're grateful that they were able to take dollars that normally would have gone to pay down a local liability to go to teachers. And then we increased pay. So 299 out of the 304 school districts passed on teacher pay raises coming from our last budget. But I set a lofty goal and said, I want us to be competitive with our Midwestern states. And I want teachers of talent move to Indiana. And if financial considerations is the one that is driving your decision on where you want to live and teach, work and play, then I want you to be able to move to Indiana and not leave money on the table.
That's why we've got an enormous voucher program, an enormous infusion of new money into charter schools when in fact our public schools are suffering. The funding formula needs to be changed. We have to put the pause on charter schools until we get new rules in place that allow us to get much quicker, better oversight into how the money is being spent, because it's being stolen by a number of the charter organizations. And it's time for us to say no to new voucher programs. If you want to put your kid in a private school, that's fine, but just don't have the taxpayer pay the bill.
We need to have a critical conversation about what really belongs in our education budget. Why does it belong in there? Why there are some things, why are we funding them, period? Why aren't they private nonprofits, philanthropically supported by donors instead of taxpayer funds? And there's a lot of that in there. And we need to start then saying the money that we don't need to be spending on these things would then obviously be able to get to the classroom, because that's where it needs to go. We spend $15 million a year right now on statewide standardized testing that is supposedly to grade teacher and school performance, which I believe is a ridiculous notion. It's been a boondoggle. The last 2 years, we've spent money on statewide standardized testing and not used it. And that's money that could go into teacher salaries.